Hi, 8th grade. Welcome to lesson 6-8, angles, lines, and transversals. By the end of the lesson, I want you to be able to say, I can identify and find the measures of angles formed by parallel lines and a transversal. Solve and discuss it. Draw two parallel lines, then draw a line that intersects both lines. Which angles have equal measures? Okay, so if we draw two parallel lines, so these two black lines are parallel. And then we draw a line that intersects them. So like that. We have different angle measures. We have angle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, does anybody have, for participation, a guess at which angles are congruent or equal to each other? Hopefully we got some participation and see that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Angle 5 is congruent to angle 8. So we've got 1 and 4, 5 and 8, and they're actually all congruent to each other. Because if I were to slide the black line down, the top black line on top of the bottom black line along the green line, those angles would line up. So in the reverse, angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, which is congruent to angle 6, which is congruent to angle 7. So 2 and 3, so angles that are directly across from each other, they're called vertical angles. They're congruent. Angles that would line up, like 2 and 6, they are called corresponding. So 3 and 7 are corresponding, 6 and 7 are vertical, 2, 3, 6, and 7 are all congruent to each other. So really, in a set of two parallel lines cut by a transversal, that green line is called a transversal. Really, in those 8 angles, there's only 2 different angle measures. Now, to be clear, these angles, angle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those numbers are not how many degrees are in the angle. It's just a way to notate the angle itself. We don't know what the degrees are. So what properties or definitions can you use to describe which angles have equal measures? So we can use the supplemental angle property. Supplemental angles, that's where two angles in a straight line equal 180 degrees. Okay. We can use corresponding angles. That's the angles that would line up on each other. And then we can use vertical angles, angles that are directly across from each other. Okay, example number 1. Sarah is building a handrail for a ramp. According to the design plan, the posts must be parallel. How can Sarah determine how the angles formed by the posts and the ramp are related? First step is to draw parallel lines R and S to represent the posts and intersecting line T to represent the ramp. So this would be like, this is R and S, but they did it down here for you, R and S. And then T is the ramp. T is the ramp. And the red arrows indicate that the line R is parallel to the line S. So translate line R to the same position as line S. So what that means is just move this left orange line on top of the right orange line. And you'll see that angle 5 matches up with angle 1. Angle 6 matches up with angle 2. Angle 8 matches up with 4. And angle 7 matches up with 3. Those are called corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. You can use what you know about vertical angles and supplementary angles to determine the angle pair relationships. So Angles that are vertical to each other are congruent, and supplementary angles add up to 180. Alternate interior angles are congruent. So 4 is congruent to 6. The reason is because 4 is congruent to 8 because they're corresponding, and 8 is congruent to 6 because they're vertical. That same thing goes with 1 and 7. Angle 1 is congruent to 7 because angle 1 is congruent to 5 via corresponding, and 5 is congruent to 7 via vertical. So you can kind of see 1 and 7 are congruent, and 6 and 4 are congruent. Same side interior angles are supplementary. So angles 1 and 6, so angle 1 and 6 equal 180. They're not equal to each other. And 4 and 7 equal 180. They're also not equal to each other. They are supplementary. The reason being is because 7 is the same thing as 3. And 3 and 4 share the same line, which makes them supplementary. Let's try it. Which angles are congruent to 8? Well, 8 is corresponding to 4. If I were to line the two up on top of each other, 8 would go on top of 4. 6 is supplementary. 6 is vertical to 8. It's a cross, so it is also congruent to 8. And 6 is corresponding to 2. So 2 is also congruent to 8. Which angles are supplementary to 8? So which angles added with 8 are going to give us 180? So that's the ones that share the same line. So angle 5 is supplementary to 8 because we could make a straight line this way. We could also say angle 7 is supplementary to 8 because it makes a straight line together. So we've got 5 and 7. 5 and 7. And now if 5 and 7 are both supplementary, we look to see which angles are the same as 5 and 7. We know 5 and 7 are the same because they're vertical. The corresponding angle to 5 is 1, and the corresponding angle to 7 is 3, and 1 and 3 are also vertical angles. Use what you know about other angle relationships to explain why 4 and 5 are supplementary. 4 and 5 are supplementary because of what we learned right here. They are same side interior. They're on the same side and they're both on the inside. Same side interior angles are supplementary. Example 2, find unknown measures. Use what you know about angles created when parallel lines are cut by a transversal. What are the measures of angle 4 and 5? Well, if I know this one is 99, I also know that angle 2, 4, and 6 is 99 degrees. Then I know that angles 4 and 5 together form a straight line. So 4 plus 5 is equal to 180. So measure of angle 4 is 99, plus we don't know what the measure of angle 5 is, but I know together they equal 180. All I have to do to solve for the measure of angle 5 is subtract 99 from both sides. Cancels out on the left, and we're left with the measure of angle 5 is 81. So 5 is 81. So we already found out that 5 is 81. We know that 2, 4, 6 are all 99. That means that 5, 7, 1, and 3 are all 81. So angle 7, measure of angle 7 is equal to 81, and the measure of angle 2 is equal to 99. Now the explanation is that measure of angle 2 is a vertical angle, and the measure of angle 7 is, where is 7? You know, I covered these up. Okay, 7 is vertical to angle 5. Use algebra to find unknown angle measures. Figure A, B, and C are parallel lines. What is the value of x? Well, if I know that this is 75, the other ones that I know are 75, I'm going to highlight. Those are all corresponding or vertical angles. So then I see I'm trying to solve for x, and I know that x plus 25 is there. And the angle 10 with that x plus 25 makes a supplementary angle. So if I know that angle 10 is 75, I know that 75 plus whatever that angle is, that x plus 25, should be equal to 180 because that's what supplementary means. So that's how they set up this equation. Then what they did was combine like terms. 25 plus 75 is equal to 100. Then to solve for x, to get x by itself, we want to subtract 100 from both sides. So that cancels out on the left. And then 180 minus 100 is just 80. In the figure, A is parallel to B. Those two lines next to each other mean parallel. I think of like the two L's next to each other in the word parallel. What is the value of x? Well, if I know that this is 59, I know that 2 is 59 also because of vertical angles. 6 is 59 because of corresponding angles. So if this is 59, I look to see that these two are supplementary. So I know that 59 plus x plus 12 has to equal 180. I combine like terms. 59 plus 12 is 71. Plus x equals 180. Trying to solve for x, so I use my inverse operations. Subtract 71 from both sides. X is equal to 109. Example number 4, reason about parallel lines. What must x equal if lines C and D are parallel? Well, if lines C and D are parallel, these would be corresponding angles. So they would have to be equal to each other. So we set them equal. 2x plus 10 equals 60. Solve for x. So we first got to subtract 10 from both sides. Bring down the 2x. 60 minus 10 is 50. Then, last but not least, divide by 2. That cancels out, and x equals 25. So if x equals 25, then lines C and D are parallel. Look for relationships. Two lines are parallel if corresponding angles formed by the lines in a transversal are congruent. Alternate interior angles formed by the lines in a transversal are congruent. Or same side interior angles formed by the lines in a transversal are supplementary. Try it. What x must be equal to if A is parallel to B? So I know that if this is 86, so is this angle, so is this angle, and so is this angle. So 86 must be equal to 3x plus 17. Trying to solve for x, I subtract 17 from both sides. This cancels. 3x equals, this is 69. Then I divide by 3, so x equals 13. So if those two lines were to be parallel, x would have to be 13. Now, on the other side, if this angle is 100, so is its vertical angle, and these are their corresponding angles. So I know 100 is not equal to 7x minus 4. But if this is 100, I know these two angles are supplementary. So 7x minus 4 plus 100 must be equal to 180. Combining like terms, 7x plus 96 equals 180. Subtracting 96 from both sides, this cancels out. 7x equals 180 minus 96 is 84. Divide both sides by 7. X must equal 12 for those to be parallel. Okay, 8th grade, let's say it. I can identify and find the measures of angles formed by parallel lines and a transversal. Have a super great day.